are fearfully and wonderfully made human. I'm your host, Diana, a licensed mental health counselor, a certified integrative mental health professional, and the founder of Through the Valley Therapy and Transform Mind Consulting and Coaching. And welcome to the Holistic Counselor Podcast, where I try my best to intersect faith, science, and whole person wellness. Before we begin, a gentle content disclaimer. In today's conversation, we will probably be discussing topics related to suicide, trauma, and mental illness. If that feels heavy right now, please take care of yourself as you listen. There's no shame in pausing or coming back later. And remember, healing is possible and help is real. So, now let me tell you why I'm honored in having today's guest here. I met Aisha T. McDonald through United Way of Broward County, where she serves as the Director of Training Initiatives. I was invited to speak at one of their past events, and Aisha was my point of contact. We decided to get on a video call, and I knew she wasn't just coordinating training. She was living this work from the inside out. Aisha is a licensed mental health counselor, suicidologist, and certified trauma expert. She's trained thousands through mental health first aid, facilitates crisis intervention team trainings for law enforcement, and serves as a national speaker and DEI consultant. She's also a beautiful Black Caribbean woman, mother of a neurodivergent child, a slam poet, and someone who brings lived experience and clinical expertise into every room she enters. Today's conversation will explore what it means to live in between cultures, raise children with emotional and neurological differences, and hold space in systems that don't always make space for us. It's about belonging, advocacy, it's exhaustion, healing, and everything we're often too afraid to name out loud. Whether you're a clinician, a caregiver, educator, or someone who's been carrying invisible burdens, this episode was made for you. Aisha, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I have never heard an introduction that combines so many of my worlds into one just piece. I usually feel awkward listening to people explain who I am and what I do. And I was listening to you and I was like, oh, I do that. Oh, that's interesting. So thank you for that introduction.
Yes, of course. Well, I try to, when I have guests, when I invite guests in, just to allow the listener to understand that, like we're called experts in things, but it's like we're humans first,
Mhm. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And we just have a story in our own journeys that and experiences that we have gathered, and we are choosing to help the other humans to with what we've gathered because we have seen the darkness or we have seen valleys, through the valley therapy, hello, or we've seen things and we don't want to be stuck in them. So we have chosen to really work hard to gather information to pass the baton to other human beings. So,
Absolutely.
on that note, you wear many hats.
A few.
Therapist, trainer, mom, poet, advocate. I could probably keep going on and on and on. Can you share what first pulled you into this work and how your personal story has shaped your professional mission?
I think for me, one of the things that has always driven me into doing the work that I do is the concept of how can I help others. I grew up with a mother who was always helping everybody else, to the extent that my sister and I would joke that, you know how some people bring home stray animals for pets?
Yeah.
My mother would bring home stray people.
Oh,
Like
wow.
our house was never empty. There was always somebody there. And then when she was in the workspace, she was the guidance counselor, she was the support, she was the advocate for everyone in need. And so it's interesting because now we say that, I come from a family of clinicians. My mother is a doctoral level marriage and family therapist.
Wow.
My sister is a social worker, and here I am as a mental health counselor. And my father is absolutely upset because he's like, why didn't anybody want to be an engineer like me? And I was like, first of all, hate math. And there's a lot of that in your career. But it oftentimes feels like I had no choice
Mm,
but to be of service to others because that's what I grew up seeing around me.
yeah.
And then even with my dad, like I describe both my parents as they were Hotep parents before Hotep was a thing or a
A what?
concept.
Oh,
Um,
wait, what?
Hotep. It's those people that are just like have this social activism and consciousness, right?
Oh my, okay,
Um,
so she's about to teach me something new. I love this.
but I mean,
I
growing up, my parents were always advocating. My dad was an activist, marching in streets about, just social issues that were happening in South Africa and Rwanda,
Wow.
in all parts of the world. And my mother was there supporting individuals on an interpersonal level. And I grew up and it was kind of like, well, I have no other choice, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is all that I've seen and all that I've known. So how can I be of service? And I think the personal mission that drives me has always been in my small part of the world, in the limited capacity that I have, how can I be sure to leave the world a better place than I came inside?
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. But I'm still kind of want to know the word you just used. Did you say hotep?
Hotep, let me see if I can figure out a description for Hotep because I feel like in recent times it
Yeah.
sometimes get mangled and not
I've never
necessarily put
heard of it though.
appropriately.
Aisha, did I like sleep? Is that a class? I mean, like, I've never heard the word. Where have I been?
So for me, and this is
Hotep.
my personal definition, it is
Please.
by no means the all-encompassing description.
Yeah.
Um, Hotep has always been a level of consciousness that goes beyond like Eurocentric ideals and the socialization that we've been kind of made to conform to. And so when I describe my parents as like they were Hotep, we
Yeah.
grew up in a very holistic mindset.
I love that.
There was an Afro consciousness
Hmm.
that we were obligated to make sure that we learned. Even growing up in our household, my parents were two different religions. My father was Rastafarian or Ethiopian Orthodox to be specific in his beliefs, and my mother was Christian, but they were so non-denominational that we had Jewish friends and we would go to Shabbat dinner every
Wow.
Friday. And then at one point we lived with a Muslim family and I would see Mr. Muhammad doing his prayers 5 times a day. And so there was this real concept of, everyone has a shared belief.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I saw a picture of like white Jesus, I was like, who's that? Because in my house, Jesus was black with locks and he had some nice abs. I was like, he's cute.
And those beautiful blue eyes and that pointy nose. And he was very, okay, I'm sorry. I know this because I am, I am a disciple of Christ, so I don't want to be disrespectful. And we have a lot of Christian listeners, but it's true.
But
We
it
need
was a
to
different
challenge that.
feeling for me.
Yes,
I
yes,
saw my
yes.
parents' concept of Jesus was based on like geographical location,
Hmm.
racial background, what ethnicity existed in those times in historic days. And like I was 5 years old being told this, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Listen,
so
Aisha, I wanna talk about this a little more because I want to challenge the listener as well. It's like where do they come, like their view of their faith, right? Because
mhm,
denomination, you're talking about something that's super important that I talk about with other guests. Because I remember being in a Catholic church in New York City and a nun telling me, you put that guy up there. And I'm like, I have no idea who this white man is because I'm living in a very Caribbean, Hispanic background. And so I just want to make sure that we just take a step in understanding of what it is like we're talking about in a respectful way, right? And so like to me, I'm about to go after I hang up with you, go into the rabbit hole of Hotep. I'm telling you right now.
So, like I said, there are things that have negatively impact the concept of the word, but the true and honest meaning, it for me and with the way my parents raised us, was pride in your culture, pride in your
Okay.
ethnic background,
Okay.
pride in the ancestors that came before us,
Mm-hmm.
and the ways in which we are able to navigate the world with respect and honor to what the Mother Earth has given us,
Mm-hmm.
while being conscious of what we're taking into our body, and how that impacts our physical health, but also our emotional and mental health.
Yeah.
And to this day, I pretty much have to keep in mind, like, what were the ways, and actually, like, responding to the good that I had in my childhood, and how am I implementing that in the way I'm raising my own kids, to be proud of their ethnic backgrounds, especially being multi-ethnic kids with two different parenting. And
And what do you mean by that?
so I'm Black. I don't know if you've noticed.
You're
But for your listeners who may not be watching and maybe
true.
just listening, I identify as a Black Caribbean woman. But my children's father, my husband, he is a Latino man with both African and Indigenous ancestry. So,
Hmm.
you
Just
know,
like me.
growing up kids with
Yeah.
two different, and it's interesting because I say that we come from two different ethnicities, but we're
Right.
both island people, and the
Right.
islands have so many shared commonalities
It does. It does.
that,
Well, I mean, I'm half Caribbean, so half island. The other
so
half
you're half
is, yeah, the
you
other
were
half's from,
raised in a half island household. So
yeah.
many of what I went through you probably went through too.
Yeah, and it's a good point too. I would love to talk about this because even if it is on the island, like it's like trying to find the common things, but also keeping the individual culture as well because
Exactly.
I had South American, right?
Mm,
South American mother, Caribbean father, married a Southern white. And then I was from New York, so it's two different cultures from New York, Northeast, then the South.
yeah.
Then, okay, so you see, and then I raised my son to have a very open mind because it was just like I had to continually challenge his thoughts as a kid. And now, like, I get it. Like he's like, no, mom, like I see things in a whole different, it's not very
A wider
narrow-minded.
spectrum.
Yes, but it's important that we talk about this, Aisha, because this is what's missing now. We are so in a tick-tocked brain and we believe that that is the truth. And we're raising younger generations to believe whatever the the social media goes into, the rabbit holes that it goes naturally into because that's how they programmed it. And then here we are with this high influx of suicide rates, mental illness, judgments, cyberbullying, things that you have to work. I mean, because you're a mental health first aid provider. And I know when I took the class, and I don't know if you were the one that came in or not to teach the school that I was working for or not. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the mental health first aid and the suicide prevention because, man, you've trained thousands of humans. Broward County, I love it and I'm already ready to move out of it in a way because it is a lot. I love it because it's very diverse. So can you speak on the mental health first aid being in Broward County and like what we're just talking about? I just want to transition to that a little bit because this is the situation. We don't have enough conversations like we're having right now, and automatically people get defensive,
Mhm.
judgmental, and it's out of fear. So
Fear of the unknown, really.
yes, now go ahead, girl. Like tell me
And
about this.
I think when it comes to diversity and mental health and concepts that folks weren't necessarily open to or made aware of previously, there's kind of like a shutdown. People feel comforted in the known. And when I'm used to being in this like pigeonhole sense of identity, why would I want to go beyond that? Because learning new things or dealing with change or dealing with others who are different from me brings about uncertainties, right?
Yeah.
Part of me teaching mental health first aid, especially here in South Florida, and I've taught it throughout Florida, and I've taught other trainings throughout the country, but I come back home to South Florida because of the diverse groups of people that I'm around. Broward County is the actual, like, statistically most diverse county in all of Florida.
Really?
Um, we
Yeah,
have
I
just,
guess you're right. Like I'm thinking
we
about
are,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually what was, we used to be called a majority minority community because there are more people of diverse backgrounds than people of European white backgrounds living here. But
I
one of
love
the things
that.
for me is that, like, just going to any room and you are for sure not going to be in a monolith. You're going to be around so many different backgrounds, so many, even the island folks. Like, I love to be all, I'm an island folk, and I go into rooms and there's like three, four, five different islands all at one time.
And ones that I've
Um,
never heard of until I met them.
it's absolutely, I learned of
Right?
a new island last week, and I
Which
was
one?
just like, Saba,
Oh, okay.
Saba.
Where is
Don't
that
even
at?
know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's one of the lesser Antilles.
I
It's
love
really,
that.
really tiny. It's an island made up of like
Wow.
5,000 people. And I was like, that was my high school. But like, that's high school. But you're just constantly learning new things. And
Hmm.
so for a lot of people, being exposed to new things is overwhelming and
Yes.
challenging. And when we bring the concept of mental health into it, this is a field that has been stigmatized in regular social settings for so long. And then so many of us come from backgrounds and cultures that don't talk about mental illness. We don't talk about emotional well being. We don't talk about those things.
Mhm.
We suck it up and we pull through. And so going into spaces and bringing the concepts of mental well-being and mental health into the communities that I have served has been such a fulfilling thing to do because I've gotten the opportunity to challenge those stigmatizing thoughts, um,
How? How do you
have those
challenge them?
conversations. How?
Yeah. How do you do it without them shutting down and going off on you?
Oh gosh, no, that's happened.
I know.
That for sure has happened. I've
Yeah. I know.
definitely had some, I call them lively debates
I love that.
in some of these rooms. But
Yeah.
here's one of the ways that, like, I approach it. I can only tell you facts. And
Okay.
I'm going to give you the facts and I'm going to give you this information. Take from it what you will, use
Hmm.
it how you want to. You can refute it as much as you want to. I'm not here to force you to subscribe to my ideals. I'm only here to present the facts.
Hmm.
And upon presenting those facts, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to challenge the way that you thought and make you willing to open up your mind, or it's going to make you dig in and hold on to those thoughts. But what you can never do in the future is say you didn't know.
Ooh,
Now you know. And you can
ouch.
either choose to act and do differently, or
Right.
you can choose to hold on to what you know and what you've always done. That's still a choice.
Yeah, and why do you think people hold on so tightly? Like I know you kind of touched on it, but it's just like I want to have that conversation a little because as two therapists, like we see why people hold on, right? But I
Mhm.
think if a listener who has no clue, who's actually wanting to learn or who's now being a little challenged in their faith or belief or like, oh no, here we go with the freaking DEI crap. But I've heard that. I've
I've
heard
heard
that.
that.
Okay, I know you
I've
have.
heard that to my face.
Oh, okay. And then listen, for us, because we are professional practitioners and we have a better understanding, like why, first of all, why do people get so caught up in that kind of dynamic, number one? And then number two, how do we help them get out of it?
So, the first thing for me that comes up when I have these conversations with people that are digging in and
Mm.
holding on tightly, is trying to understand that they're doing this from a place of emotional safety.
Oh, I've
Um,
never heard it that way. Go out, go
and
girl.
trust me, this is my Buddhist philosophies
Mm.
trying to be more open-minded and not bring forth my personal biases and impose those on them, because I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I want to be like, stop
Yeah.
being dumb.
Right.
But
Or what's wrong with you? Like,
yeah, like
what's wrong?
why
Why
can't
don't you
you just
understand?
the many times I have like gone home and like whisper yelled to my husband about like critical thinking or lack thereof, right? But
Yeah.
to their face and in the interactions and conversations, I have to remind myself that it is safe for people to hold on to what they've known. Like a child with a blanket or a
Mm.
stuffy.
Yeah.
This gives me safety because I know it
Yeah.
and I'm used to it.
Yes.
And it's what has worked for me.
For so long.
Um, Beyond that, I've also been able to learn to understand that for some people, it comes from a place of superiority.
What do you
I
mean by that? Superiority. I'm automatically I'm thinking of like communal narcissists, but
you're getting too clinical. We're not going to
I know. I'm sorry. I'm
pathologize
sorry.
everyone.
I know. I'm so
Um,
sorry.
I think for me, it's a sense of as human beings, I consider us to be apex predators. We're at the top of the food chain, despite the savagery that exists in the wild, right?
Yeah.
Human beings have somehow been able to learn skills and use tools and make advancements to keep ourselves at the top, or as much as we like to think we're at the top. But with that, we also want to be at the top, even when it relates to each other.
Mm.
And there's a sense of superiority that drives a lot of individuals into wanting to feel better than
Yeah.
I am better than you. I am
Yeah.
better than you in this. That's why,
Or at least I'm not like them.
or at least I'm
Ooh.
not like that. And that's what drives like the fan base of sports games and so many different aspects of life
Mhm.
is my team is better.
Right.
We are better. Me and my sister have a college rivalry that is just I went to University of Florida. I'm a
Oh, Gator.
Gator.
All
My
right.
sister is a Seminoles that went to FSU.
Oh,
And
that is a big rivalry here in Florida.
oh
And
my God.
by the way, I'm an owl and a shark.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take you.
And I don't care about sports, so
You
there
don't
we
care
go.
about my sister doesn't either, but her arguments still drive us.
Yeah.
And it's good-hearted in nature. We
Mhm.
both got great educations
Yeah.
from the choices we made, but human beings in general, we like to feel as if we're better than somebody in some way. And so that drives a lot of it
Mm.
too.
And it's
It,
tribal. I mean, if you really go back into history and understanding science, right? We have to be in tribes. I mean,
yeah,
mammals have to live so we can protect us
together, we're pack
together.
animals.
Yes.
But we want to stay within our pack. And
Right.
then when it comes to like the concepts of mental health that have been so stigmatized throughout history in so many different cultural aspects and social aspects, they're one of the hugest. I do an activity when I teach mental health first aid where I make them break into small groups. And one of the questions that I give them, the prompt is to write on a note a post-it, just something small. The first words that come to your mind when you hear the words mental health.
Mm,
Then I go through with them and I make them give me all words that they came up with on their list. And then
mm.
I write it in columns whether they think those words are stigmatizing or not stigmatizing.
I wish we could do that right now. Like, honestly.
Listen, let's just have the listeners like tune
Yeah.
in and do this, right?
Yeah.
But repeatedly, my
Uh-huh.
list for the stigmatizing words is this
Yeah.
long, and I am lucky if I get one or two words in non-stigmatizing. And you hear words like weak, and I'm just like, why is it weak to have a mental illness when
Right.
this is literally something that's impacting our bodies outside of our control? And then I remind them a lot of when we finally like come wrapping up that I
Mhm.
ask them about mental health, not about mental illness.
Yeah.
And even though I worded it as a health issue, instead
Hmm.
of giving me words like exercise and diet and nutrition and sleep, like they do when we talk about physical health, they
Hmm.
gave me all the negatives.
Yeah.
And because the concepts have been so negatively inclined in our society. People
Yeah.
don't want to feel like they're that.
Yeah. Because they can't listen, like when you break your arm, you see the broken arm. If you have diabetes, you have the insulin shot. If you have other things, like you know what I mean? Like there's
They can't see this
and they
invisible
can't
illness.
see this invisible illness. And to me, I always thought about this when I first heard it. The word illness starts with I, and the word wellness starts with we.
Ooh,
And this is so important for us to understand how we need to be.
isolate.
Yeah, well, we isolate and it turns, but that, okay, I'm going to go now into your part of you that's the suicidologist. Am I saying that right? Suicidologist. Okay.
Hey,
What does that mean? I really need to understand, like, because I think I trained under one, and he was the from Nova Southeastern University, and I forgot his name, so I'm not going to even try to mention it. But what does that mean for the audience, for someone that's never heard the word? What do you do? And how's like what? Let's just go into that like for a little bit because when we do talk about mental wellness, right? I mean, wellness, we all want to be well, and mental illness, people, it's so stigmatized still, especially in our community and especially in churches of different denominations. Okay. And that is something why I created this podcast. This is why a year ago, God put it on my heart after so much prayer to just move forward. And I'm like, okay. And here I am. Like, so I really want people to understand because it's a scary thing and it's also
yeah,
a judged thing and it's a feared thing. And I think, and it's turning younger. I
yeah,
mean, I never in my whole lifetime heard, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds ever. It was like very not common. But
yeah.
when I'm hearing kids today saying that they want to kill themselves and parents calling me going, "Can you help?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I have grandkids and and you have kids that age. We
Right.
talked about that before, 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Suicidologist. What is it? What do you do?
So the very simplistic explanation for what a suicidologist is it's somebody who works in the field of suicide, who has either done research, um, done training and education, or work directly with individuals who are experiencing those thoughts and behaviors. How I got here was I did a training. I did a training, and the trainer at the time had their credentials up on the screen, and
Mhm.
I said, "Hey, how you got that? What's that? I'd like that." And so we had a conversation, and I was actively in the training to allow me to become that. But then I started working outside of my regular day job with United Way. I started working for the American Association of Suicidology, doing very intensive trainings on psychological autopsy, suicide death investigations. I currently teach suicide considerations for special populations. That is really goes into like the unique needs and issues that are impacting different groups and different identities.
Mhm.
Um, but really and truly, what brought me here was both personal and professional. Professionally, when I was in my academic program and for my master's, we had to do our practicum slash internship. And I was working a full-time 40-hour job. So I couldn't take time off work to go work for free for a practicum
Right.
somewhere else. So I was like, I said to the professor, I was like, find me somewhere that has nighttime hours and weekend hours, and I will do the 20 hours that I need per week in the evening and on the weekends. I worked 7 days a week at that time because I was like, I have to get these hours done. And the only place that had those hours that would allow me to come in after I finished working was the psych unit on a hospital. And
Wow.
so
Where was that? Can I ask
it,
where it was?
yes, 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 Broward General Hospital.
Okay, here we
Um, uh,
go. Because
oh,
we just talked about our county. So we know like that meant you had very diversity of mental illnesses in that
goodness.
hospital.
And we had saw
Oh
everything.
yeah.
And my internship was supposed to be 12 months. I enjoyed the work
Wow.
so much. I stayed working at that facility for about 18 months. I asked them, I was like, can I come back? Can I keep doing this? And they're like,
Wow.
yeah. They were not refusing free labor.
Right.
Um, but working with individuals that were experiencing suicidal thoughts and had attempted suicide
Yeah.
um, really shaped how I move forward in the trajectory of my career and who I wanted to work for. Later on, many, many years later, I ended up being the Baker Act coordinator at another facility. So I was the one that was in charge of all the involuntary hospitalizations that were coming through the facility at that time.
Can you, for my listener that doesn't know what you mean by bake, because some
Baker
people
Act.
have no idea. They're like, bake what?
So
Baker.
a
Yeah.
Baker Act is the Florida specific word. It's called different things in different states. In
Okay.
California, it's a 5150 because that's the code that's used by law enforcement. In
Oh, wow.
Ohio, it's called a pink slip because they
Wow.
actually
I did
write it
not
on
know
like
that.
pink paper.
Wow.
But it's different names all over. But what it really is an involuntary hospitalization for anyone who is experiencing thoughts of harm to themselves or to others. They are taken into custody, whether it's through being committed by a law enforcement officer who can have observed or been told that they're a risk of harm, or by a licensed clinician or physician who
Yeah.
can document a history of any type of mental illness and these considerations of them being a risk of harm to themselves or to anybody else. And through that commitment, they're taken to a hospital where they are placed in a hold for examination for up to 72 hours.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't last as long, depending on their ability to stabilize.
Mhm.
Sometimes it lasts longer because they need more intensive help and
Right.
services. But that was my first job. That was my first job in this field as a
Wow.
clinician working at my internship.
Wow.
Um, Personally, in my life, I have been impacted by suicide loss. As a young teen, I lost an uncle to suicide
Oh man.
back home on an island that didn't really understand what this was. And throughout the years, I've had other family members that have experienced suicidal thoughts and
Yeah.
suicidal feelings. And I think what drove me to working in the field of suicide primarily was I never want any other family to have to feel how we felt.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
get it.
tragic loss.
It is a tragic
And
loss. I
at the
mean,
time, I was in Catholic school, and
oh gosh. Please don't
I
tell me
remember.
that you heard
Oh
that
gosh,
he's
no!
going to hell.
This, before my uncle even died. Before my uncle even died, I was maybe 12 years old. And I remember Sister Mary Catherine, and it's one of those core memories that just stuck with you.
I have,
Sister
yeah.
Mary Catherine had an all grade assembly. So it was me and all the other 12-year-olds that were in my grade at the time. And she called us into the assembly area. Nobody else was allowed. The teachers stood on the outskirts. And I went to a very strict Catholic school on the grounds of a convent.
Oh
So
my
we were there in our full all white uniforms, seated. And she came on the microphone and said, if you kill yourself, you'll go to hell.
Oh no,
And
no,
there's
no,
no
no,
other
no.
sin as bad as this. You can't get forgiven. You can, if you murder someone, you can ask for forgiveness while you're waiting for the death penalty. But if you kill yourself, you don't have time to ask for forgiveness. You go straight to hell. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
I
even,
I get it.
I'm not even Catholic anymore. And that just stuck with me as a core memory, in so many ways that I think people don't understand because looking back at it now, my thought on it is imagine having these feelings and being afraid to speak about it because somebody has already damned you to hell from having feelings of pain and hurts.
Yeah.
And when I've done mental health first aid and trauma trainings for churches and for faith leaders,
Hmm.
and one of the things that I try to bring more awareness to is that the two things are not exclusive. It's not church or faith or religion over here and then mental health over here.
Right.
Like the same way if somebody in my family had been diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah.
I would welcome prayers. I would welcome somebody laying hands on them. And I would also take them to an oncologist to get some help.
Yeah.
And so the same with mental illness, I do welcome the religious beliefs that can be of strength to a person because faith gives people hope and keeps them alive, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
believing in somebody bigger than ourselves, having control over our struggles, my gosh, can that be a relief for so
Mhm.
many people to feel? But
And
we
community again.
and the community support
Yes.
other individuals that can be there for you, but we can do both. We can
Mhm.
pray and go to therapy at the same
Yeah. Yeah.
because God, if you're of the belief in a higher power, then it would be so essential for us to believe that this higher power created the means for people to get help from each other.
Yes.
And what are
Yes.
therapists but the means for people to get emotional help?
Exactly. And what is the like I think it's the lack of education, or it is what we were talking about earlier, the power and control situation.
Mhm.
Okay, or the human being trained in a certain way to control the children or control the human or control or the leader, it goes into like a cultish, and I'm not saying the Catholic Church is cultish at all. I know many, many beautiful Catholic people. So
Me too.
you're right, but Aisha, when it comes to suicide, like, and I just want to share a little bit about my story. This situation didn't come, it was stored in my brain for a very long time until I was about 47 years old, but it was about my father, my Puerto Rican father. My older half sister and I walked home from a Catholic school. We were in New York, and we found him overdosed. He didn't die though. I think back, but because of how much empathy I have, I could picture if he did, Look, it still affects me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but to me, this is important. This is why this conversation needs to be had, because there's so many freaking people suffering in the church, okay? And there's so many people suffering in our cultures
In
because
our
they
cultures.
either blame the devil, and I'm sitting there like, are you freaking kidding me? No, like you're
But
gonna
it's
say
what they know.
that's exactly
It's what they've always been told.
right. So
And
how do we help that? Like Aisha, like let's spend some time really helping the listener. If someone's in our culture, someone that's from the Caribbean, or they're like, oh, let me just listen to this because now I'm willing to listen to somebody that loves Jesus and that knows therapy, right? And science. And we're trying to bring things together, or a higher power, right? How do we help that person that's suffering right now? How do we help that person that doesn't know what to do? How do we help that person because now it's cognitive dissonance, like we're challenging the thought, like, like what would you say to
I'll
them?
use I'll use a recent class that I taught. I teach at the police academy. And I'm honored that you shared about your father and what you experienced and went through because that's not in no shape or form easy. Um, and when I do these trainings, a lot of these personal experiences do come up for people.
Yeah.
And so there I was at the police academy, and I don't know if anybody here is knowledgeable about the police academies, but that's a whole culture within itself.
Yes, it is.
Identities beyond that, they
Yes.
leave that at the door because
Yep.
this is their identity now. And
It's a
um,
fraternity. It's like a frat, like a
it really
military. It's
is.
like, oh, I get it.
And the majority of my classes are male. I'll have two, maybe three women in a class of 30 people. So the majority are men. So there's so many different factors that they bring into this room. They bring their ethnic and cultural beliefs. They bring the police mindsets that they're in the academy. I get there like maybe 2 weeks before graduation, so it's already been ingrained in them for months. They bring the masculinity and the concepts that they've been socialized to believe as men and who we are and what we do and the machismo
Mm.
ness of it all. And I have to be the Black female at the front of the room, challenging some of these beliefs that are so ingrained in them, right? And
Mm.
absolutely enjoy it. Never a dull moment.
Never.
Never a dull moment. The conversation, the dean walked in on me the other day in like mid conversation, and I was like, "Hold on, dean." And then I remembered who he was. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," because I was so into what had come up. But somebody brought up a point, one of the gentlemen in the class, he brought up a point where he was like, but isn't it weak to have a mental illness? And I said, how is it
Oh,
weak? And so I asked him, I was like, what organ does mental health impact in your body? And of course, like multiple people were like,
the
oh, your
brain.
brain, your brain, your brain. And I was like, yes, your brain. And what does your brain control? Less people, but they were like, oh, everything. And I was like,
Hmm.
yes. So your brain impacts every, like, it can you function correctly if your brain isn't working the way
Right.
that it should be in a
Right.
typical sense. And of course they were like, no, they're going along with me. And I was like, so why would getting help for a brain illness
Hmm.
be considered a weakness? And I challenged him back and I said, I actually think it's weak to not get help when you know you need it.
Ooh, good for
And
you.
he glitched. He's like, and I was like, it is a weakness of your soul to know that you are in a state where you need support, you need the village of other people,
Yeah.
you need the help of a professional, and to hold on to remaining in that abyss rather than using the ladder that you need to get out because you're like, well, I'm a man, I shouldn't use ladders.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and so I think when it comes to so much of what we have been trained or socialized to believe, whether because of our cultural backgrounds, whether because of our religious faith, whether because of the gender identities and the boxes that we're made to conform to,
Hmm.
um, thinking about our overall well-being, right? And how interconnected our physical health is with our mental health and our emotional health, and expecting to be able to get up every single day and function right
Right. Yeah.
when there's a part of the system that is
Yeah. Calling out, it's screaming, it's
calling
yelling,
out.
it's trying to get your attention. That's what I say because we're holistic beings and we
Yeah.
ignore it sometimes or we have these thoughts and we get scared of the thoughts so we keep ignoring it more and more, but these are
And it
things
just
that
gets worse and worse and worse.
yes,
And
yes.
then even thinking about the social support that we get around us, right? Because people are more likely to have successful recovery from illnesses,
Mhm.
mental or physical related, when they have social supports of other beings. As human beings, we are social beings. We said earlier that we're pack animals. We
Mhm.
are created to be in connection with each other. It's
Right.
just the nature. And even the introverts, even the biggest introverts of us, we may not want to be in connection to other human beings, but we
Hmm.
get ourselves pets. We get other creatures to connect to, or we have that one extroverted friend that forces us to stay in
I'm
connection.
that one extroverted friend.
Makes us do things and takes
Yeah.
us out of our comfort zones, right?
Yeah.
But when we think about mental illness, and this is one of the cycles that I tell people is oftentimes hard for people to grasp, is that the worse your mental health gets, the more isolated you become.
Yes, it's true. It's
But
so
the
true.
more isolated you are,
Right.
the worse your mental health will
Yeah,
get.
it's such a terrible cycle.
And so even just forcing yourself, um I told my husband a couple of days ago, um, to go to the gym even when you don't feel like going to the gym. Because he was like, I'm lazy, I don't want to do it right now. And I was like, behavior activation. Make yourself do the thing that you know will make you feel better, even if in this current mood you don't feel like that. And
Yes.
he was going with my sister and her partner, and they were going all in a group. And I was like, the behavior activation of remaining in connection to others even when you don't want to or feel like it.
Right.
But also, not just putting the onus on the person going through the illness, but putting the onus on the support system and village around them. Because
Hmm.
how many times do we see people that have isolated and withdrawn from us and we leave them alone?
Yeah.
This is, to me, one of the biggest symptoms of somebody going through emotional suffering is when they no longer have interest in the things that and activities they used to, and when they're withdrawing from you completely in ways that they never used to. And so
Right.
many times, because we don't want to deal with their problems, we just go, oh well, I'll wait for them to come back
Or
around.
they're being dramatic, or
Or
they're a
yeah,
teenager with
or
hormones,
I don't
or
know what
some,
to say,
yeah,
so I don't
so,
say anything. And I'm like, no, that's when we need to check in,
right.
especially on your strong friends that
Yeah.
seem like they have it all together.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole, I saw that picture. I think they had no, not Kurt Cobain, Robin Williams. I mean, they had a whole bunch of people, the famous chef, all these
Yeah.
people that like are
Anthony
boisterous.
Bourdain, Robin
Yes.
Williams, Kurt Cobain,
Yes.
Kate Spade, DJ
Yes.
Twitch.
Yes. Yes. So you have all these, and I think it was another like a beautiful beauty queen person
Oh,
too.
the Miss America, Chrissy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so then you think about it, like, wait, they had it all together, but
Hmm.
why
Or
do
they
you
seem
think
to.
to seem to? Yeah, and I know because I've suffered with brain illness. I call it brain illness because you're right. Or I had to go get a psychoeducational coach because this is how I deal with my very like police or firefighter men or military men because I had to learn to train in with different verbiage so
Hmm.
then it gets more accepted and then after I they accept it then I'm like yeah well that's mental illness you know like
Yes. I have to present them with facts. I give them
yes, the
statistical
logical brain,
data.
not the
Yeah,
emotional, the
it
logical stuff.
you have to, it's so black and white in the thinking. And that's not just for them, but so many people have
Mhm.
these, like they need to see proof. And
Yes,
mental
yes,
illness is something where like I can't show you lab work as
right,
proof,
right. Well, you
right?
can in some cases because
You actually can.
I've had clients who, like a 19-year-old boy who had low testosterone, but nobody expected a 19-year-old boy to have low testosterone, and he tried to kill himself. You see where I'm getting at? But after
Yeah,
we found out the blood work, it was like that is why
that impacts his mood stability.
everything, exactly. Or the black box on the psych meds that they might give
Mhm.
a young person. Okay, that people don't read that pamphlet all the way through.
No,
And then
no.
they okay, and I'm not putting down meds because I know we need holistically to come together with certain things because I'm not that person either that I'm going to be like anti this, anti that. It is under how to like to me helping the human, like especially listening that doesn't know. We have a psych degree. We have experience. We are hired to help people get through some stuff. But how does the average listener that has no clue, where would they start, Aisha, as a suicidologist? Like what do you say to a person or at the mental health first aid classes? Now they're done with the class. Like what do you say to them? What's the next steps?
Pay attention. I think one of the most important things is thinking beyond ourselves. We live in a very individualistic culture,
Mm.
which is a dichotomy for me because I come from a collectivism type of background. And
Yeah.
I'm now placed in a social setting that is very individualistic. How many of us know the names of our neighbors? Um, we pass them every single day. We have no clue what's going on
Mm.
behind the doors of others' lives.
Yeah.
But even for those that are close to you, one of the things that I stress that is important is to pay attention to behavior changes in the
Okay.
people around us. Behavior changes in any capacity, because there's so many times where people are going through things and we don't take the time to consider beyond ourselves. I had a coworker a few weeks ago in a meeting, poked me in the arm in the meeting and said, "You don't seem like yourself.
Mm.
You're not perky today." And my instant thought was, I'm not here to perform and make jokes for people all the time. What she didn't know was that I actually had been going through a period of very severe depression. And as somebody who, I'm not just a clinician, I've been impacted personally by two mental health diagnoses myself. I have good days and I have bad days, and
Exactly.
sometimes the bad days get really bad. But I
Yeah.
still, I present well.
Yeah.
I am able to function. So who would know? But the fact, and this coworker was not a friend. It is strictly a coworker relationship. We don't have personal conversations. We don't have a relationship beyond our two offices being next to each other. But the fact that she noticed that I was having a bad day and took the time to ask,
Yeah.
and of course, my in my depressive state, my initial reaction was defensiveness because I don't know her well enough to want her to know that
Yeah.
I'm not well. But I breathed it in and I was like, well, thank God she noticed
Mm.
because I was sitting in a room with how many dozens of people and nobody else did.
Right. Right.
Nobody realized I wasn't cracking jokes. Nobody realized I wasn't asking questions. Nobody
Right.
realized I was sitting in silence for so long. And so it's just
Because
it
you're always the strong one. You're the one who's the helper. And this
I'm
is
the one whose
something,
office everybody comes to ask
right. Right.
the
And
questions, right? And they
exactly.
were still coming and they were still asking and I was still giving feedback like I usually
Yeah.
do until this one person poked me and cracked
Right.
that facade a little bit. And so pay attention to people around us. Another important thing that I want people to notice is that um, there's so many physical symptoms that are actually caused by mental health issues.
Yeah.
The back pain, the
Yeah.
headaches,
Shoulder
the
pain.
stomach
Yeah.
issues, the
Yeah.
gastrointestinal
Yes.
difficulties, our body is breaking down
Mhm.
because our brain is in pain. And when the
Yes.
brain isn't functioning right, none of the rest of you can function right. And
Right.
we're popping Tums like all we have is a little heartburn
Right.
and indigestion,
Right.
when really and truly it's because of the worries and the stress and the
Or grief.
cortisol
I mean,
level, the
I
grief.
yeah, Aisha, I think we're in a collect. I'm actually, when I hang up with you, I have to prepare for the 1 o'clock that I'm doing for Texas. I'm moderating a grief panel with some of our South Florida grief experts. And so, we're in a collective after 2020, a collective grief that people don't
Mhm.
know. And this is why people are popping off in airplanes and there's more road rage and more suicides and everything. And this is why I really feel like we got to learn how to take the step back and
Mhm.
pause and reconnect to higher power, creator,
Each other.
each other, to me, my beliefs, uh, my spiritual text, breath work, right? Like, if someone's listening right now, Aisha, because I know I could probably talk to you for another hour. I know
It's
I
okay.
can.
Bring me back. We'll have a whole other conversation.
Seriously, like, I mean, and they're the ones suffering. We were talking about people that might not have the brain illness or the depression or the suicide ideations. Where can they get help? Where would you suggest them to start, like to go to? Like, what would be the first few things that somebody that actually might be listening and saying, no, I am sad. Oh, I have isolated. Oh, I'm not doing the same things that I used to love to garden. I don't want to garden. I used to go out on Friday nights. I don't go out on Friday nights anymore. I really am starting to think about these things. Like, if my life would be better if I wasn't here. I've heard this numerous times when I worked with some clients who are suicidal. What would you suggest?
I think for me, the first suggestion I ever want to make, the clinician in me is always like, go to therapy, first off. But I have to take a step back and
Hmm.
learn and understand that not everybody is there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Or can't afford
And
it.
or can afford it or has access to it.
Exactly.
And so one of the first things that I tell people is to talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody. Find somebody in your life that you trust, whoever that person is, and that you feel comfortable opening up to, because
Yeah.
there are people who will shut you down and make you close back in on
Or
yourself,
do the opposite and right away go boom, 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 and Baker act you.
right? And so who is that trusted person
Yeah.
in your life? that you can speak to. I have cultivated in my own personal life trusted
Yeah.
adults. And that has taken me years because I was first diagnosed when I was 19 years old and I shut down. I didn't speak about it the first time I told someone about my illness. The response was, "What do you have to be depressed about?" And I was
Oh
like,
my
"Oh,
gosh.
okay,
Oh
well,
yeah.
now I'll
Yeah.
never talk about it again."
Again,
And for like
exactly.
7 years, I never spoke to anybody in my life. I
Right.
was semi-agoraphobic and lost friends left and right who thought I just didn't want to hang out with them anymore.
Right. Because they took it
And
personal.
truly, I couldn't leave
Yeah.
my house.
Right.
I had one friend who would throw rocks at my bedroom window. I lived on the first floor of a building, so I don't know why she was throwing rocks. But she would throw rocks and force me to let her into my house, into my dark room, into my dark corner, and she would just sit on my bed and just talk to me. And not
Mm,
about anything I was going through, about just random things, but she forced me to remain connected to
hmm.
her in ways that was difficult for me,
Yeah.
but was life-saving because she showed up every
Yeah.
single day. So find somebody that you can talk to, whether it's a partner or a spouse,
Hmm.
whether it's a parent. God knows my mother is getting all the phone calls,
Right.
all
The hotline, the
the
988
hotline.
hotline,
A
not
faith
NAMI.
leader,
Yes.
right? And
Mm,
so, but if there isn't anyone in your personal life,
yeah.
yes, use the resources that we have
Please.
access to. So in every community, there's access to 211. And then
Okay.
for mental health related crises, there's 988. And that
Okay.
988 number is saving lives.
Yeah.
Those people are trained to respond to crisis. And then for people who may not have the diagnosis themselves, but you're living with a family member or a loved one or a friend, there's NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that is there to support the supporters.
Yeah.
They're there for the people who make up the village to give
Right.
us more psychoeducation. But from a basic level, I tell people this all the time. And this is in relation to so many things that you feel uncertain about or may not know or may not understand. Google it, use Google, and use Google and click on credible sources
Yes,
and not
please.
just random people's blogs
No.
or Twitter
Right.
accounts
Right.
because that's easy. It's easy to just watch a TikTok and say, "Oh, I researched it." I had
Yeah.
somebody who told me that they had done intensive research about a subject that I was trained in. And I was like, what is your research? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Well, I watched some YouTube videos." And I
I
was like,
know.
"No,
But
what's
what's the resource,
what's your
right?
research?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "YouTube." And I was like, "No, no.
No.
While these are quick ways to learn, and I'm not
Right.
negating their impact, delve a little bit deeper into finding
Exactly.
information for yourself
Right.
because there's so much access. We live in such an advanced technological world. There's
Hmm.
access to information now that when people are ignorant of things, I'm tempted to think it's willful ignorance
Mm.
because if you,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's so hard because I grew up in some people in my culture, they were just so they just had so much trauma that themselves that that's the part that got so hard that
yeah,
that's what got them through, right? The
yeah,
work, the everything. And then you don't know what trauma is. Please go to my country or go to this place or you have
it's like a comparison. It's a
yes,
competition of whose
competition
trauma is worse.
right. And that to me, I'm like, okay, that's the lack of empathy, compassion, and education. And
Ooh,
so think about that, Aisha. If we were able to get more education on it with compassion and with empathy, it's not a bad thing to have empathy.
no,
It's not. It's trying to listen to understand instead of to respond, right? It's trying to understand the human being, no matter what they look like on the outside, that within themselves, it's a whole picture. And like we were discussing earlier, right? It's the biology, the psychology, and the theology. I know I repeat myself for my listeners that listen to every episode. I think I
oh
say
no,
it.
that's good.
I get that in every time because we have to understand ourselves first and why are we reacting or responding to certain things because we have to become responsible for ourselves,
Agreed.
right? So
Agreed.
Aisha, like, you know, before we wrap this up, because like, yeah, I have to get ready for this next thing, but Is there anything you want to say, or any resources, or any books, or anything that's coming to mind that you would want to share
Oh,
with the audience? And do you still work with, I mean, because I know you're super busy, so do you still take clients on? And if you do, like, how do people find you, et cetera, et cetera?
gosh, I have so many thoughts. Um, One, I no longer take on clients only because I am a stereotypical Jamaican and I have like 4 or 5 jobs that I do. And I hate it. I hate that the stereotype is right. But I
I feel
am
you.
with United Way, directed and facilitating training.
Mm-hmm.
I teach for the Association of Suicidology. I do some instructor work for FAU, and then I do random things. So I just don't have the time and capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But I come from a family of clinicians. Have you heard? So my mother does private clients. My sister works in the school district, but she also takes private clients.
Okay.
And so when I can serve a need, they are my first referrals that
Okay.
I make because I know their style and I know their capabilities and
Yeah,
training.
and you trust
Um,
them. So do you have what's the name of their companies or something? Because I'm
so
going to put all this
my
in the show notes. That's why.
No problem. My mother right now, her name is Barbara Paris Amore.
Okay.
And she takes private pay clients on a
Mm-hmm.
sliding scale. My
Mm-hmm.
sister, her name is Anika McDonald, same last name as myself, and the first name is Anika. She takes clients through Alma,
Okay.
ALMA, and
Okay.
you can find her, and she has a wonderful, very descriptive list of like what she works with and how. She
Mhm.
focuses a lot on neurodiversity, on LGBTQ issues, on racial identity issues, and she works with a lot of youth because they're going through so much.
So
Um,
much.
and she's skilled with that. Um, for my own self, I do a lot of speaking engagements and educational awareness.
Yeah.
I may not be doing the one-on-one work in
Yeah.
counseling anymore, but I try to at least be able to spread mental health awareness
Yeah.
and education on a larger scale.
So
So,
how can we do, oh, excuse me, mental health first aid with you?
well, they can just email me. People who are interested, I can be emailed at it's my first name, middle initial, and last name,
Okay.
Aisha,
Mm-hmm.
Aisha.
Uh-huh.
That's the correct way. But Aisha T McDonald at Gmail is
Okay.
how I usually connect to people and see.
Okay.
And I tell people like, hey, you got a stage, a podium, or a screen? I'm there. Like I will come
Okay.
and speak to anybody about
Good.
anything even beyond mental health first aid. I teach on trauma, on well-being, on self-care, which I think is so important.
Yeah. Does
We
United Way of Broward have like a resource page or something that I
we
could
do. We
share?
have our commission on behavioral health and drug prevention.
Oh, wonderful.
You can check us out. You can go on the unitedwaybroward.org website to find
Hmm.
more information about the work we do, or you can go directly to our commission website, which is drugfreebroward.org. And
Okay.
that has a list of resources. It has the work groups. It has the initiatives that the agency leads in building mental health awareness and substance use prevention in our community, in our region, in
Okay.
so many different ways. And so we try to make sure that we are spreading that awareness. We have a new initiative that's called Be Healthy Broward. That's
Really?
the promotion of mental health awareness throughout the entire county
I
in
love
so
that.
many different ways. And that is chaired by a judge, the judge who
Really?
pioneered mental health courts in the entire United States.
Oh my goodness.
Judge Ginger Lerner Wren. She pioneered
Wait.
the Be Healthy Broward program.
Ginger, what's her name?
Lerner
Uh,
Wren.
well, you know why I'm writing her name now. I'm going to
You
see if
can
she'll
look
come
her
on my
up.
podcast.
Oh no, reach out to me. I'll connect you to her. I'll give
Will
you her
you?
stuff.
Oh, I
Yeah.
would love to talk about that I mean, nationwide, because to me, this is what we need. We need more resources out there because honestly, sometimes what happens is people really don't know all the resources
Mhm.
at all. They think they're
Yep.
so alone because to me, okay, so in the belief system, I really believe there's evil out there and the evil one wants to steal, kill, and destroy each one of us, especially the relationship within ourselves. And so to me, like if we get to come out and speak about it, that that gives you your power back and makes that go away, like a little by little. I really think
Absolutely.
so. So to me, like to get as many people on here that are professionals that understand and then give the human the resource, then now they have choices. Now they realize they're not
Agreed.
alone.
Agreed.
Right? Like us sharing our story. Like Aisha, I had no clue. I had no clue that you suffered and wrestle. I like to call it wrestling because it is a wrestle. We wrestle because I wrestle too. This morning I had to put on my Alpha Stim, which is a device that was used 5 years ago on me. Instead of me taking a medication, I do this device to help me with my anxiety. Okay. And anxiety and depression are symptoms. It's my body saying, hello, Diana, take a deep breath and calm
Yeah.
down and maybe
Slow
you
down.
and slow down or figure whatever's happening so you don't keep going, ignoring, and then you implode.
Absolutely.
So anything else you would like to say before we say goodbye?
I think for me, I want to leave us with we talked about so many things and so many different topics today. And I think what I always want to leave people a reminder of, and this has been I like to give myself like a motto for the year. Like, what am I going to live for this year? And my birthday
Mm,
was last week, Thursday.
happy
So
belated birthday.
thank you. I'm in the final year of my 30s, and
Oh, that's a big deal.
it's been a learning
Yeah,
experience
it
for
is.
sure. This decade was a lot
That's how
more
40
traumatic.
was for me.
Somebody told me that. Somebody was like, well, wait till your 40s. And I was like,
Yeah. Oh
okay.
no. Yeah. 50 was like what?
It's just been, there's been so many challenges. There's been global traumas, there's been
Oof.
personal traumas.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have all my different girl group chats, right, with my different girlfriends that are my guides. They're
I
my
love that.
guides through this life. My sister's in like almost every one of them. Um, but I always ask them, like, what is one thing that you think I should challenge myself for this upcoming year? Um, and the majority of them are like, you need to practice better self-care. You take care of everybody else. How are you taking care of your own self? And
Mm.
so my motto that I really wanted to subscribe to this year was to rest.
Mm.
You heard me and my stereotype of having 5 jobs, right?
That's us. That's our minority community, honestly,
It's
Aisha.
just what
I
we
don't
do. We're
care if
always
you're
going.
Caribbean or South American or you know what I
We're go,
mean?
go, go,
That,
go, go
yeah.
all the time.
Especially us women.
And
No
we
offense, men.
feel no, 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 but it's true. And we feel a sense of we're not being productive if we aren't doing something all the time.
Yeah, you
Um,
could sleep. Or no, what was it? I had
you
my
can sleep
some.
when you're dead.
Yes, and
Yeah, no, I've
that's
literally
how we
been
were
told.
raised. Oh
I've
yeah,
literally been
oh
told
yeah.
this by
And I
grandparents,
said
by
it
aunts.
by
Yeah,
accident now. Like I realized with my stopping the intergenerational trauma that I have to now
I
be like,
have to
I'm so
break it.
sorry, honey. I'm so sorry that I said that to you.
I
You
have
can
to break
rest.
it. I don't have to jump out of bed the moment I wake up in the morning because I need to be doing housework and chores and taking care of the kids. I can pause. I can pause.
Yeah,
I can breathe.
and
I
rest.
follow an account that's called the Nap Ministry.
What?
It was
Okay.
created by Trisha Hersey.
Okay.
And boy, has this like really expanded my thoughts beyond that sense of overproductivity. And
Yeah.
she has written books on this, but her concept is really around rest as resistance.
Mm.
And she has this quote that I live by that I have like just a constant, even my out of office emails. When
Mm-hmm.
you get an out of office email from me while I'm on PTO, I will have a quote in there about I am taking time to intentionally rest. Do not
Mm.
expect me to be responding to your
Yeah.
emails while I'm on PTO.
Mm.
But for the quote that resonates with me for this year has always been, we must believe that we are worthy of rest.
Wow.
We are driving ourselves to points of exhaustion. And when we're exhausted, we can't fight back against the powers and the struggles that be. And so, how are we taking the time to breathe in between the moments and allow ourselves to rest? And I challenge you as you leave this conversation today to go into a much more intensively difficult one later on.
Yeah.
Take some time to breathe, even if it's 2 minutes,
Yeah.
to calm your body, regulate yourself, and know that this work that we are doing is important, it is meaningful, it is challenging, but
Yes.
we cannot pour into others when we haven't taken the time to rest and regulate our own selves.
Yes. Thank you, Aisha, for reminding me and holding me accountable. Thank you for being a
Oh, I
great
know how we
colleague.
are.
A great
We're good at telling
colleague.
everybody else what to do, but we don't do
Oh,
it.
oh yeah. No, and I need that. And I need that. And I do have a handful. And Aisha, I really appreciate you coming on. Honestly, this is great. And I'm hoping to have you in the future for other things we didn't even touch. Right? And that any way I could serve the United Way as well, like as a speaker or
Thank
talk
you
or
so much.
moderate. I love moderating more than speaking, honestly.
I'll remember that for future.
I appreciate that. I mean, I just feel more comfortable, but I guess also understanding that it's okay to be uncomfortable because that might be the situation as well. We get uncomfortable and then we're like, oh no, what's wrong with me? And it's like, no, you're a human. It's okay to be uncomfortable and it's okay to think thoughts and feel feels and understand that we are all having a human experience together, honestly, right? And so,
Absolutely.
on that note, um, I just want to remind the listener, e- especially if you're a believer in Christ like me, to trust in the Lord, to guard your heart, and to renew your mind. Okay, you're not alone. I'm going to leave a whole bunch of stuff in the show notes in case you're seeking help and Aisha's family links. I'll find them and put them in there. And I just really care about you. I think we both do, Aisha and us, and this is why I do what I do. All right, then. Thank you,
Thank
girlfriend.
you. Thanks so much for having me. I have appreciated this conversation so much.
Well, I
It's a
hope
good
that,
start to the morning.
yeah, and I hope that we can connect after this too.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Hang in there. And like I said, uh, I know I'm overwhelmed right now in a way, and I want to be honest. So it's important to be honest. And so go take care of yourself and go rest. I'm going to take Aisha's advice right now before I go click on into another Zoom and go outside, go barefooted in the sunshine, and do breath work for 10 minutes.
Good.
And
Yeah.
maybe cry.
Oh, crying is cathartic. It's the best way to
Right?
cleanse your inside.
Amen. Amen. All right, girl. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye.
And now for the disclaimer to make sure you understand that you are responsible for you. The content provided on the Holistic Counselor podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast are my personal opinions and do not represent the views of any professional organizations with which I am affiliated. Call your doctor, 911, or 988 immediately if you have a medical emergency. The Holistic Counselor podcast does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the podcast. Reliance on any information provided by the Holistic Counselor podcast, guests appearing on the podcast at the invitation of the Holistic Counselor podcast, or other listeners to the podcast is solely at your own risk. Confidentiality notice. If you engage with the Holistic Counselor podcast by commenting or posting and are a client, please be aware that you may be revealing information that could compromise your confidentiality. Please remember that disclosing your identity or personal details can be linked to your clinical material. As a therapist, I am bound by confidentiality and will not respond to any disclosures of this type on this podcast. I am committed to upholding the ethics and confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship, which extends to all forms of communication in accordance with the laws and professional guidelines that govern mental health professionals. I want you to know that your privacy is of utmost importance, and you are responsible for protecting it when interacting on this platform or any other public forum. Thank you.